If everyone could find your seat, we will go ahead and get started this morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Wednesday morning general session. Again, this year, like last year, we will have a much shorter session this morning, so we have time for some member presentations later this morning. But we do have several important presentations and awards to give out this morning. First up, here to bring us greetings from the JCEP, or Joint Council of Extension Professionals, and tell us a little bit about what they do and present an award, is Karen Munden. She is the current president of the National Extension Association of Family and Consumer Sciences. And James Henderson. James is the past president of ANRAP, which is the Association of Natural Resources Extension Professionals. James is also a NACAA member. I'll turn it over to Karen and James.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'd like to share some information with you about our professional association that is also your professional association. It's the Joint Council of Extension Professionals, or as you may know it, JCEP. So everyone in this room is a member of JCEP, and the 7 extension professional associations who make up JCEP provide representatives to serve on the Joint Council of Extension Professionals board. And most of our associations have 3 members of their board serving on the JCEP board.
The 7 organizations that are members of JCEP are the Association of Natural Resources Extension Professionals, which James is representing, the National Association of County Extension Agents, such as yourselves, the National Extension Association of Family Consumer Science, which I'm representing, the National Association Extension Professional and Staff Development, the National Association of County Development Extension Professionals, the National Association of Extension 4-H Agents, and the Epsilon Sigma Phi. We are the 7 associations that make up JCEP.
So why JCEP? Why does it matter? Why is it important? Well, JCEP advocates for extension on behalf of all of the 7 professional extension associations at the state and the national level, and fosters collaboration between our associations and creates synergy for extension. JCEP encourages scholarship and professional improvement through a combined effort.
We advance partnerships between associations and throughout the United States. JCEP strengthens extension as we communicate using one voice. We also promote unity through all our associations and assist in communication with extension administrators.
So what are some of the benefits of JCEP? Well, again, we promote professional development, and we offer 2 leadership conferences a year, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in a moment. JCEP also provides a $250 JCEP Creative Excellence Award to each of the 7 professional associations, and we're going to be presenting that in a moment. And we engage members by providing additional opportunities to improve their abilities and engage with our partners to ensure that they understand the value of extension to their local clientele. Now, the Leadership Conference is sponsored by JCEP and is one of these conferences. So I have found personally a lot of benefit from this meeting. Last year was in San Antonio. It's going to be in San Antonio again. Save those dates, February 12th through the 13th. It's right down on the Riverwalk. All the associations were present. It was a really excellent meeting. I encourage you to attend that meeting.
The second JCEP-sponsored conference is PIL, which is also known as Public Issues Leadership Development Conference. This conference provides associations with a method of sharing state successes with national leaders in Washington, D.C. We also promote extension and meeting with congressional leaders across the United States. The 2020 PIL conference will be held at the Hyatt Regency in Crystal City, Virginia, from April the 5th through the 8th. So mark your calendars for this wonderful event. I'm around. I am the chairperson for the 2020 PIL. If you're interested in being on one of our committees, please see me. I'll be here until tomorrow. That was an advertisement for those of you who need something on your Vita. Also, requests for both of these conferences will be on the JSEP website. So if you're interested in presenting at a national conference, either the PIL or the Extension Leadership, please visit the website.
So both of these meetings, Leadership and PILD, are meetings that benefit all extension professionals, and that's part of the reason, and one of the primary reasons why JSEP exists, because it's an unnecessary duplication of effort if each of our associations tried to do those leadership and PILD meetings. So we come together as 7 associations to offer those. So the Joint Council of Extension Professionals is all of us, and the programming we do to help communities thrive.
So JSEP is working for you. Please visit the website at jsep.org. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask either your president, your immediate past president, and your president-elect. All 3 of those individuals serve on the JSEP board. We thank you for your attention.
Now we'll move on to the next set of slides, back to the original, and we have the JSEP Creative Excellence Award. Okay. I'd like to call to the stage Marissa Shue. It's a trick, Marissa. You got to go around the side over here. I thought I was going to have to shimmy up the front of it earlier. So again, one of the functions of JSEP is to provide the Creative Excellence Award to a member of each of the 7 professional associations. So once again, please join us in congratulating a member of your association, Marissa Shue, for being selected for the JSEP Creative Excellence Award.
Thank you for awarding me this. I would also like to acknowledge my team. This was part of a team effort that was apparently lost in the kind of difficult submission process. So other people from Michigan, Ben Phillips and Phil Tocco, as well as some collaborators with Cornell, helped put this project together. Thank you.
One more piece of JSEP business. We want to recognize your past president, Alan Galloway, for his service on the JSEP board. I've had the privilege of working with Alan over the past 3 years as I've served as president-elect, president, and past president of the Association of Natural Resource Extension Professionals. And I want you to know that Alan has done a superb job representing the interest of the National Association of County Ag Agents. You can be very proud of him. And I just want to express on behalf of JSEP how much we appreciate his service on that board. Alan?
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the next part of our program, as hopefully most of you woke up this morning and remembered that today is 9/11, if we could take a moment of silence to remember what happened on this day. Thank you. As most of you are aware, NACAA is heavily involved with the National Outstanding Young Farmers Program, which recognizes farmers under age 40 through a nomination and selection process, overseen by the OYF organization. Many farmers are nominated each year by NACAA members to compete in the selection process. This is a very prestigious award among a group of farmers and spouses who are selected to be a part of this prestigious OYF fraternity. Today we have with us a couple representing the OYF organization to share a little bit about their operation and their story about OYF. Here is Scott Ferry from the state of Michigan. They have a very impressive operation, but I'll let him tell you more about that as I bring him up here to the podium. Scott?
Good morning. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and I'm a Rotarian in our local community. Is anybody a Rotarian in the audience? Ooh, get involved in that. That's a lot of fun. It's the single organization that's helped to eradicate polio across the world, amongst maybe 1 or 2 countries that still have it. But I'm here today because I'm a dairy farmer. I'm here today. I was privileged to be a part of an organization, OFA, was nominated through our local extension agents to represent our state at our national convention. So I'll tell you a little bit about who we are, our farm, and a little bit about our story. And actually, I have a bit of a challenge for all of you folks in the end. As our industry has changed quite significantly, I'm looking at all of you as my mentors. So, next slide. This is a picture of our farm. We're located in Litchfield, Michigan. So, those of you geographically understand the hand. The hand here is where I'm located. I'm actually not far from Fort Wayne. I'm 1 hour north. It said 1 hour and 23 minutes. I beat the clock. It took me an hour. Construction wasn't too bad. And literally 30 minutes from the border of Ohio and Indiana. So this is our small farm. I'm a 4th generation farmer, started in 1906 by my great-grandfather and grandmother, and was passed on through the generations. Thankfully, my grandmother decided she wanted to continue to farm. So she married a handsome, strapping young boy with a last name, Ferry. Like the boat, not the mythical creature I know you're thinking of. I spent my whole life describing the difference. So the strapping young man, Mildred and Clarence, continued on the farm, and they had several children that spanned 17 years in age. My father, Harold, was the youngest and decided this was what he wanted to do after getting his degree from Michigan State in ag engineering. So here I am. I'm looking forward to figuring out what I'm going to do in my life. We came to a crossroads a little bit. I was about 15 years old, and there was this meeting taking place, and I didn't really know what was going on because I had other things that I had on my mind, if you know what I mean. And at 15 years old, it wasn't thinking about farming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, right? So as I progressed in my thought process of what I was going to do, I said, I'm going to go to Michigan State University, right? That's obviously, thank you, go green. That's obviously going to be my first choice. That was my only choice. I applied one place only, and put all my eggs in one basket. I applied early, and they let me in. So I was pretty excited. And so at Michigan State, I said, what am I going to do? I said, well, I got to get into business, and I think that business is going to maybe be able to be versatile. And so as I move forward, I decided, maybe finance. I like numbers. I like crunching numbers. I like spreadsheets. Let's get into finance. So I graduated with a degree in finance. And during my time at Michigan State, I rekindled an old flame. The girl that I dated as a 7th grader, dated by means of our parents let us go to the movies, and we watched the same movie at the cinema together, and the parents were in. So that was the gal that I had met. And I say I married up. I married up. She's an accountant. So I couldn't have asked for a better relationship in business to have married a gal who wanted to someday, and said to me into my eyes before I eventually made my way back to the farm, I always wanted to be a farmer's wife. And I looked at her and I said, I don't know if you have any idea what it means to be a farmer's wife. And I said, well, you might have your chance. So, degree, finance, moved into the banking world, was in the banking world over in the Detroit area, loved what I was doing, hated my location. Nothing against Detroit, great place. It was developing, it was growing. Dan Gilbert was a part of the whole process in redeveloping the city. Very proud of where I was at. But I loved the 4 walls in which I worked, the commutes, the city, the life, just wasn't going to be for me. So I'll reflect a little bit about that a little bit later in describing the story about how I got back to the farm. So this gives a little profile. These are some of the facts of our farm. 600 milking cows, 500 heifers. We were raising some beef cows, 200 acres, corn, soys, wheat. Cover crops. Very important are the cover crops in our operation. I don't know if anybody is doing cover crops or having information about cover crops in their areas, but I am really excited about what we've been doing the last 5 years in developing our soil. So, go ahead, next slide. A little bit about our family, as I've discussed. I'm a dad of 3 children. So we have Amelia, who just turned 8. We have Griffin, who is 5, and we have Eliza, that is 2. And of course, Allie, she runs her own accounting business on the side, and I say on the side, it's full-time. She spends a lot of her day. She would have been here today, but she was obligated to her work today. She is my partner in crime, and she will be my business partner till the day we die. And I couldn't do this if it weren't for the partner that I have been able to have next to my side through this process. Next slide. So, we're a dairy farm. We've been a dairy farm since 1906, but we're doing a lot of things. What are the things that I take to my heart as being most important to being a successful dairy farm? Many of you would agree in these things. Quality forages, great reproduction, cow comfort. These are the 3 pillars to what we do on our farm. We focus on them every single day. Every time I have a management meeting each month, these 3 topics are the keynotes of what we talk about. And if we're not driving towards one of those 3 things or improving one of those 3 things every single month, then we're falling behind. And so I look to you folks in the audience for the research, for the information, for the things that I'm trying to stay on the cutting edge for those exact 3 things. Very important to our operation. And if we don't execute well on those, then we're probably not going to exist in this industry. Next slide. So everyone loves pictures. So here's a few pictures of our crops and forages, the chopping program. We're mowing hay. We have blow sand. Our soil is made up of sand. And we, thankfully and fortunately, were able to get our crops planted this year. And especially when we have rain like we had this spring, it was a significant challenge on sandy soils. I say quietly, we did get our crops in. It's that mode of guilt that one possesses if they were able to succeed in something that they had put their mind to when they watched their neighbors unable to do. And so it's something that I've had a lump in my throat this entire year. It's been a topic that we've all talked about. I go to the 4 corners in the same county that I live in, and I look around and I see barren fields. It's a struggle mentally to think about wearing the shoes of what your neighbor is going through when you may have had or afforded the opportunity. I was afforded the opportunity because we do have sand in which we live. That also comes to a cost. We irrigate our fields. 75% of our ground we have to throw water on, or I have the ability to throw water on. But that means that my summer is fulfilled with lots of early mornings, lots of late nights. The irrigation traveler you see in that picture right there is probably an archaic way of irrigating. Most people are looking at center pivots about how they do it. In Michigan, we don't have 100 and 200 acre fields. I've got 20 and 40 and maybe an 80 acre field that we can try to put a center pivot in. But we do a lot of hard work on soft hose travelers, hard hose travelers, things of that nature. Next slide. So that is a picture of the front page of our website. This has been launched this year, and this is part of the development of where our industry may be going. Who knows? I'm dipping my toe in the water. This is what we're doing. We're selling beef, cheese, and butter. So we have a beef business that takes a couple of years to get up and going. We have the cheese and the butter business through our co-op of Michigan Milk Producers Association, and we're able to purchase the products that are being made in part from the milk that comes right off of our farm. I said, well, this is a very simple way that we might be able to develop the niche in the market that is growing at a rapid pace. So this is very important, I think, to the future of our industry, as it may be going in two directions. One, very large farm. Two, very small niche, specializing in something when it comes into production agriculture. And so I'm looking down the pipe of trying to figure out, where are we going to fit? So 10 years ago, I came back to the farm, and we were milking 300 cows, and not a lot of debt, and I'm 24 years old. I'm thinking to myself, man, how is this going to work? And so we invested into land, we invested into water. We were looking at things that we thought would have a return on investment in the long run. I don't go and build new milking parlors. That's not really my MO. But I'm investing into things that I feel are going to get us the greatest return on investment, no matter which direction we go. Just like I did when I went to college. I didn't know where I wanted to go, but I thought a business degree in finance could take me somewhere. Lands me right back into agriculture. And I'm using it every single day. And I'm so thankful that I invested into that space. And I learned that it's the folks that are sitting here today that are supporting me on the information and the knowledge that I didn't maybe spend 4 years going to school for, but the information and knowledge that you guys are bringing into our industry, I am so thankful for, because now I have had the experience on one side of learning some of that financial stuff, learning how to hedge my commodities, learning how to talk to the Chicago Board of Trade. So I'm happy to be able to, or be fortunate to be able to invest into things that may be in the future of our business. Next slide, please. Again, these are some pictures. I like to have a lot of fun. So some of you may know if you're from Michigan State, but that bottom right-hand picture that you're looking at, that's a little bit of my personality. I'm goofy. I like to have fun. If it ain't fun, it ain't worth doing it. Right? So in my college career, I had the opportunity to be Sparty the mascot at Michigan State University. Go Green. Sparty the mascot, one of the most recognizable mascots around the country. Nothing against anyone else that represents any other mascot around the country. We have an ego that just is something above what's comfortable for most people. We have a good time with what we do. We don't ask for permission. We ask for forgiveness in everything. And that goes to what I do every single day on our farm. I just step and go all in. And then we strategically work through the repercussions of those sometimes. But we have a good time. My son loves to be on the farm. This little guy is 5 years old. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, the morning before last. Quick story. 4 o'clock in the morning, phone rings. Scott, we've got a problem. We got a cow down. I said, what's going on? I said, well, he says, well, she just had a baby calf yesterday, and she's not doing well. her ears are cold. She has what's called milk fever. And milk fever is treated with calcium. Some of you all know exactly how to handle this. CNPK, we have to administer an IV, so on and so forth. So, boom, fire out of bed. I take off, and I'm down getting all of my stuff on, the routine, and I'm thinking to myself how thankful I am it's not winter, because there's another 50 pounds of clothes that come on with that. So I get it all on, I'm about ready to blow out the door, and right around the corner is my 5-year-old son. Dad, are you going to work? I said, yeah. He says, can I come and help with you? I said, oh, buddy, I'm sorry. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. It's the middle of the night, man. You still got to go to school. He says, but, and right around the corner of the hallway, which I couldn't see, he says, but I brought all my work clothes. He heard me get up, take the phone call, immediately grabbed his work clothes out of his bedroom, comes down, puts them in the hallway for fear of immediately putting them on and get rejected, for fear that I might immediately say no, maybe, but ask, Dad, can I help you? And so in the back of my head, I said, never discourage eager help. That was a tough moment. I was contending myself. It's like, yeah, come on, man, let's go. Like any other time, let's get it. And I said, no, I think the more responsible thing to do is you need to get your sleep because you're 5 years old, and I don't know how handling a 1,500 or 1,800 pound cow is going to be the best suited for you at the moment. So I said, you know what? When I get home tonight and you get out of school, we're going to go back to the farm because we're going to have to check on her. We're going to make sure she's okay. So I did have to let him down easy, but we did. We checked on her. Mama's up. She got up. Everything's fine. And she's taken off in her lactation. We're excited. Next slide, please. I'm going to scroll through just a couple of pictures. These are some pictures of just, some days on our farm. That's Amelia. Obviously, she's grown up a little bit, but that's our little redhead that just is full of fire, if you can imagine. Next slide. That's Griffin. He's planting soybeans with me, and this is this spring. He says, Dad, you mind if I drive? I said, you bet. Absolutely. Hop in the saddle. So he, sure enough, gets in. That's the focus of determination. That kid wants to make sure he's driving straight, and he's going to get every one of those seeds in the ground, and he wants to do it right. He wants to do it right because he's, never had the opportunity to do it, but he wants to make sure Dad's happy with his work too so he can do it again. Next slide. So why are the ag agents important to me? So this is why you're here. You guys are talking about all the different things in your industry that you can help and support and probably learning a ton of information. But I'm maybe the boots on the ground to maybe express to you why I care about you so much. It was October 15th, 2008. I was lifted off in my career of finance. Somebody introduced the word or the phrase 6 figures to me. Okay, whatever. I'm not really into what a lot of money means, or it doesn't matter. The numbers in money follow, they don't lead. These are some of my isms. I don't really care about that. But this industry was lifting off, it's going well, and we were doing well in our very young career out of college. And sure enough, I turned the lights on in the business I was working for. I turned the lights off at the end of the day. Well, sure enough, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm fired up. We're rolling in. My phone rings. Well, that's not a client calling. October 15th, 2008, it was a phone call of my mother telling me that my father has passed away. I said, what? The typical, huh? Say it again. Like, I don't believe you, right? Well, as the story goes, end of bean harvest. Last day was the night before. He clicks his heels into the sunrise from our house because he's going to run out to the field and get the bean combine dusted off, cleaned up. We're going to bring it back home. Sure enough, he had a heart attack. This guy's healthy. He doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. He's a healthy guy. He runs like 5Ks. I'd go run with him. You wouldn't know it now, but I did. We'd run together. Just had a good time. He falls over, has a heart attack. His card was pulled that day. So that was my awakening. 24 years old, get the phone call. I rush home. My sister is 4 years older than me. She's living in Kalamazoo. She rushes home. The two of us come together and surround my mom. My mom was not, she was we'll say a silent business owner of the business. She was definitely involved in all of our other kids in the community, in the school, and the church. And we were doing all these things. So my mom was like, what is going on? How do I handle it? Laura and I, my sister came home. We surrounded mom to help her. My next phone call was to MSU Extension. What am I going to do? Well, I can't sit in a dark room and be sad about what's going on. I need to focus on what we have ahead of us. I called MSU Extension. Roger Betts, if any of you know Roger, works in the finances and he works in planning and farm business. He said, Roger, we need to surround ourselves with some people that know what they're doing. And he says, I'm on it. I'll be right there. He comes down. He sits at our table. Roger was incredibly influential in helping us navigate the waters of farm transition, figure out what we were going to do, what made the most sense for this operation at the, we'll call it sunset phase of life. Dad was 60 years old. So he wasn't quite there, but really talking a lot about what was going to be next. So Roger sat down with us, and if you know Roger, it's a 3-meal meeting with this guy. Like we start with breakfast, lunch, dinner, midnight snack. And so for the next 2 years, we had multiples of these meetings. When I say midnight snack, no joke. Allie and I spent our first anniversary with Roger Betts at our kitchen table. He would fall over to hear, he was so embarrassed when the night we were closing the books, were finished up, and I looked over at Allie. I mean, big decisions we're attempting to make here on what we're going to do in our future. And I said, well, Allie, happy first anniversary. And she was like, happy anniversary, honey. You know, I always wanted to be a farmer's wife. So here we are. We're getting through it. June 15th, 2009, we officially bought the farm, turned it into an LLC. It's Roger Betts, Phil Durst, Stan Morris, Phil Cates, Faith Collins. These are all the folks that were surrounding us to help us in this process. So 2009, we build our business plan. We're going to the bank. We're investing in some land. We're changing buildings. We're improving buildings, manure pits. We're going through this process of how we're going to be successful in this industry. Now, we're milking 300 cows. And at that time, if you can remember, 300 cows was medium-sized farm. So in 10 years, we've doubled. And now I'm probably like the small size of medium-sized farms. Just in 10 years. So I have a 25-page business plan that we developed, and we took it to the bank, and the bank says, wow, we don't have very many people come in with a business plan like this. I said, why not? I said, well, I don't know. We just don't. I said, well, here's the deal. I'm looking for about $1.5 million. I need to invest in this property that's right next door. It's 475 acres. It's got water. We can drill wells. We've got a lake on it. We can pull water out of it. And I'm telling him all the great things of why we need to invest in this land. I said, because at 300 cows, we're not going to be able to feed these cows if we're at 500 cows or 800 cows. And who knows how far we were going to go. But I knew that we needed to be able to invest in land. So we went through this process, and I'll tell you, our business plan has been thrown out the window multiple times. And in the last 5 years, I keep redoing my 5-year goals every year. So the last 5 years, everyone knows the dairy industry has been in a slump. It's not been doing well. And so I've had to dig really deep from being the guy that was running out to the 50-yard line, slamming the flag into the center of the field, doing one-arm push-ups, and 75,000 people screaming at me and motivating them to really dig deep on how to motivate myself. Because I know the Scott Ferry that I was has been getting his knees knocked out of him each year that I've been in business. And just when I think I've got an edge, it gets knocked out again. But I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a fighter. I'll spend my nights sharpening my sword like a warrior, like I'm going to go into battle, because I feel like I'm in a war in my industry. So I'm 35 years old, and I'm in my what I'd call second phase of investment career. The first phase has to be before I'm 30. We executed. The second phase is after 30, maybe between 30 and 45. I know I'm in the second phase of my investment career. And the third phase is after 45, and guess whose name's going to be at the bottom line? With me. Somebody. Whether it be my children that are interested, or it be somebody else that's interested, or maybe it's somebody else's name altogether. My challenge to all of you folks in the room, my concern, I'm gravely concerned. I've had to sharpen my sword every single day to go into battle. And I feel the folks around me are falling. We're working hard every day to be sustainable and to be in an industry that isn't necessarily going to pay you. Mind you, I didn't go into finance because I had this big idea as I'm going to get rich. And I didn't have this big idea I was going to get into agriculture because I'm going to get rich. I came back into agriculture because there's no better place to raise a family. There's no better place to teach the values and the grassroots of hard work, the work ethic that we get to teach our children, and the life lessons of life and death, taking care of that cow that's fallen in the middle of the night, delivering that new baby calf that she got to birth the day before. These are life lessons that I know our children are going to be able to take on to the next generation. So, I'll tell you where I'm struggling. I'm struggling that as I redo my business plan every single year, what does the future really look like in our industry in 10 years or 20 years? As you all know, you've seen the canvas of how we operate change so significantly in the last 10 years. What could it possibly look like in just 10 more years? I kind of feel bad. I feel bad for the folks that are in college right now with this pipe dream that they want to own their own business in agriculture. If you were so fortunate to be born into the golden egg of generations of family that had the land or the cattle or the specialty crops, that you can transition into that, it's still pretty darn difficult. If you didn't have that opportunity, how can you possibly get in? What's our challenge? Capital. Number one, capital. An industry of weather, ever-changing markets, costs that we can't control. We have to stick our foot on the gas, and we have to get out there, and we have to sell. We have to sell product. If I can't control my expenses other than constantly taking another bite off my back or whittling down the labor or trying to contract commodities so I can mitigate risk, how are we going to be sustainable? And we have to go and sell product. And if our product isn't getting sold, we need to be innovative as to how we're going to reach the mouths of the consumer that we're helping to feed every single day. So a couple of slides back, you saw the front page of our website. And the front page of our website is an indication of what I'm willing to do to take control of our circumstances. No risk. Didn't cost me hardly anything to do this. Strategic relationships, we invested in my buddy who knows how to build a website, and Google taught me how to code and program. If you want to do anything, Google. And I'm able to code and program and build a website. So that's what I did at 10 o'clock at night as I was saying I was sharpening my sword. Trying to figure out how I can market to the consumer directly. If we're not able to do that as a cooperative, or we're just amongst the circumstances of our industry that are trying to sell depressed milk prices, then all of your friends and family they're there, they're cheerleading for you. Your communities are there for you. But if we take control of being able to sell our product directly to the consumer, then we're going to start in that niche road. If the big road of big production ag is going to be very large farm, 15, 20, 30,000 cows, there might be one dairy in the entire county. Multiple locations, right? I'm not sure that I want to be 30,000 cows. That's a long way to get there and a heck of a lot of money. But how do we direct market to a consumer that's wanting to have fresh, locally produced products? And it's working. So I'm developing a business plan for our co-op to extrapolate this to every single member of our co-op that I think can be replicated across the country in every one of your counties, districts, and farms. The mentality of business owners in Japan is to never lay you off. It's against their culture to lay you off. So what do you do when times get tough? So in Japan, they might staff their businesses to maybe 80% of what they need. They'll scale them in, bring them down as production is necessary. Toyota, for example, went through some rough times, but they didn't want to lay anybody off. So they said, I'm going to pay you, and I'm going to give you an incentive, and I'm going to take you and send you home and go sell cars. Go sell cars. Sell one, sell two, buy one. Go sell cars. So my message is today is as a farmer, as a person that is closely representing the products in which we're able to consume, is I'm willing to do what it takes to go sell our products. I can't do it without your help. I'm navigating waters I'm completely unfamiliar with. Some of you know somebody that's already doing farm to table, farm to fork. Are they doing it well? Are they able to create another white-collar salary on their farm without creating another employee? In this example, it's very simple. I have a video camera at the cooler. Everybody comes in. They ring the little Ring doorbell. Comes right to my phone. It vibrates. I'm in the tractor. Welcome to Ferry Farms. How can I help you today? I'm the employee at the retail store. That's your daily traffic. You don't need another employee sitting there from 10 to 3, Monday through Saturday. I'm getting phone calls at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't care. If you want to come buy a roll of butter, I'd be happy to come get it for you. Because when you're hungry, you're willing to do anything. Thanks to the organization of OFA, thanks to MSU Extension nominating me for an opportunity to represent our state in Rapid City, South Dakota in February. And my wife was 8.5 months pregnant. She was real excited. Thank you for the opportunity to make connections with other farmers across the country. They gave me an opportunity to broaden my horizons, to see what other people are doing to be successful. Organizations like this are helping to invest into the next generation. You guys are looking down to what's going to happen in 10 years or 20 years from now. But don't take your foot off the gas. Don't be stuck in the, I'm 60 years old and I don't have the energy to continue investment. We need you folks who are in the third phase of your investment in your career. We need you to continue investing into that generation that's in their first phase. So, thank you all for your time, for the opportunity to come down and talk with you. I'm honored to be able to stand here amongst an amazing room of professionals, and thank you for being one of my very first calls when I really needed you most. Have a great day.
thank you, Scott, for being here and for sharing a little bit about your operation and yourself and how Extension has been such a big part of your success in agriculture. I think our future of agriculture is in great hands with people like Scott and other winners of the Outstanding Young Farmers Award. Here's a little token of our appreciation for being here today.
Thanks a lot. Garble cord. All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Each year, NACAA selects one recipient to receive the Service to American and World Agricultural Award. The nominee can come from excuse me, any state from the host region. So this year, the North Central had the opportunity to nominate individuals for this award. To share information about and to introduce this year's recipient is the two people that nominated this individual. We have Kurt Emanuel and Greg Bozier from Indiana.
Hello there, I'm Kurt Emanuel,
And I'm Greg Bazar.
and we are very pleased to nominate Bob Nielsen for this award and to introduce him here today. I want to ask all of you to participate in a little bit of a mental exercise with me for the next few moments. Think about if we asked you to walk out on that street, Jefferson Street out there, find a person walking down the street, and ask them to identify what conference is taking place right now where you were allowed to offer only one clue. Keep in mind, we'd have to have a person who hasn't seen all the media coverage, is unaware that we're contributing over $1 million to the local economy through this conference. But this one clue is this. At this conference, a major award will be presented to an individual who has written advising people to look closely at smut and has authored things with titles such as Sex in the Cornfield. How many people think that the National Association of County Agricultural Agents would be the choice? And yet here we are. One of the reasons why I was very excited when Greg asked me to help him with this nomination for Bob Nielsen is how responsive Bob is to county-based staff needs and requests. I think we all of us who work in a local office, whether it's regional or county, know that there are people on campus that are responsive. They're the people we can contact with questions. We're going to get an answer fairly quickly. And then we know there's other folks, occasionally you may call them and you may not hear from them for a while. And Bob has always understood that whether it's a phone call or a visit in the office or something you see out on the farm, a farmer wants an answer to the problem he has going on fairly quickly. And Bob has always been one of those guys we can contact, and he's getting back with you as quickly as he can with good, accurate information that can help that farmer resolve his problems. He also will come down if he has time and can make it and actually visit that farm on site with you and walk through what's going on that farm. One of the other things Bob has done is develop programs specifically to support professional development for on-farm type of activities for educators. A recent example is a few years back, he actually put on a staff development program where we went step by step through the details of how to calibrate a yield monitor on a combine. Where we bring it into the field and we went through the entire process. He is currently one of the leading members of what we call the Quad Squad. This is our unmanned aerial systems project. We have about 20 educators involved with that where they actually fly drones and look at field crop scouting from above the crop. Bob has been instrumental in that. Some years ago, Bob developed an extensive on-farm research program. We're doing strip trials on variable rates of nitrogen application, seed plant populations. Bob and Jim Camerado developed that, obviously to receive some data, but they also provided an opportunity for county-based staff, particularly new staff, to become involved with farmers on the farm and make those connections and start actually working with them on practical farm operations. So in all aspects of his his extension career, Bob has been extremely supportive of county-based staff. And one other thing I'll just mention is we always enjoy listening to Bob argue with the soybean specialist over which is the stronger crop. So, and with legalized hemp next year, we are looking forward to those conversations as well.
Bob's known as the corn guy, and the other neat thing is, I think whenever he makes a presentation, or most of the time, he begins, "I'm Bob Nielsen, and I give a damn." And he certainly does, and he supports our field staff so much, not only in helping them answer their questions that they get from farmers, but in helping them become better agronomists and better extension workers. Please help me welcome Bob Nielsen.
Well, thank you very much, Greg and Kurt. Like any good extension people, they tend to stretch the truth quite a bit. So, but in this case, it's good. I told Greg when we met this morning, I said, this will be one of the first times you've ever seen me come up with a set of written comments, because I tend not to go from script, I tend not to go from notes, but I felt this morning that maybe you didn't want me to drag on for a couple of hours like I usually do when I'm out in front of groups of farmers, and so I'm trying to restrict myself to what I think are the pertinent things that I want to say. I have to say, as I listened to you, Scott, in your presentation, and I hope all of you listened intently at what he was sharing with us, but you represent the people we're serving. And, this is what I've tried to do in my whole career, is to do things that are going to help the farming community and help Indiana agriculture in particular. But with the advent of the internet, it's not just helping Indiana. We tend to help people in a lot of states and all over the world, frankly. So I really appreciated your comments, Scott, and I hope we do take that to heart, especially the point you brought up about this year's challenging conditions with planting, and the guilt that you mentioned on maybe watching the neighbors who hadn't got in on time and you had because of your sandy soils. But I think all of us need to remember in years like this where we have such challenging conditions for farmers, we all need to remember that they're the ones that are struggling. We're here to help them. But a lot of us don't fully appreciate or understand the mental strain that these folks are going through. And in my career, I've tried to keep that in my mind as I work with folks, to try to always remember that they're going through situations that most of the time I probably don't fully understand. So thanks for your comments, Scott, on that. I've been blessed to be part of this noble profession that we call extension for 37 years. But frankly, I stumbled into it by accident. I went to graduate school in Minnesota after having graduated from the University of Nebraska. And while I was at Nebraska, I got excited about plant genetics primarily because of the professor who taught that class. And I really thought I was going to be a plant breeder, and so when I left Nebraska with my BS degree and went to the University of Minnesota for graduate work, I trained to become a plant breeder. And so for 5 years, I focused on plant breeding. And I was sure I was going to get a job in industry as a plant breeder or perhaps in a university. So in the last year of graduate school, you start looking for jobs. And as I was looking around for these plant breeding opportunities, I noticed there were 3 faculty positions open in extension. And one was at the University of Wisconsin, one was at the University of Illinois, and one was at some place called Purdue in Indiana. And as I read those job descriptions, something in the back of my mind triggered. And it was almost like some latent kind of thing that said, this looks sort of interesting. And here I'd trained to be a plant breeder for 5 years, and yet these position descriptions for these state extension specialist positions, there's something about it that triggered an interest in me. And it's sort of interesting because as a kid growing up on the family farm in eastern Nebraska, we weren't involved with 4-H. I had no experience with that. Honestly, I don't remember interacting with our local county extension agent. And so I really didn't have much direct experience with extension growing up, and yet as I read these descriptions, it sort of sounded intriguing. So when I was at Minnesota at the time, I was TA for a statistics course that was taught in the agronomy department, and that course happened to be taught by Minnesota's state extension corn specialist. And so because I was TAing the course and I'd gotten to know him a little bit, I pulled him aside and asked him one day to tell me a little more about what being an extension state specialist is all about. So we had a couple of chats, and he encouraged me to apply for these. I think he saw something maybe in my mindset and how I thought, and he says, you really ought to look into this. He says, go ahead and apply for the plant breeding positions, but go ahead and take a look at it, you might be surprised. And so I was fortunate enough to, after I applied, I was fortunate enough that I was selected to come in and interview for all 3 of these positions. And so during the course of those interviews, it's like a light bulb came on. And suddenly, over the years, when I'd left the farm, I knew there wasn't much opportunity in the home farm to stay in it, but I always wanted to do something in agriculture. I thought it was plant breeding. But during the course of these interviews for these positions in extension, I realized that here was a real opportunity to give back to agriculture and to help farmers and help the industry. And so as it turned out, Purdue got me. I don't know if that's good or bad, but so 1982, I began my work at Purdue, and I've never looked back. A couple of my plant breeding professors maybe have never forgiven me for making that decision, but I myself have never looked back. It's been an unbelievably rewarding career working as a state extension corn specialist for Indiana. So I'm thankful for the faculty and administrators at Purdue for taking a chance on me back in 1982. Fresh out of graduate school, loaded with book learning, a little bit of experience growing up on a farm. But because of that, I'm also thankful to the farmers and the county ag agents and ag industry and ag news media in those early years for simply being patient with me, because I'm sure the advice and recommendations I was giving at the time, while it was well-intentioned, as I look back, I realize now a lot of it was sort of naive, a lot of it was inexperienced, and frankly, a lot of it was probably outright wrong and dumb. But people were patient with me over the years. I had good mentors at the time. Greg Bazar was among them. And Greg was actually part of the interview process that got me there. Lonnie Mason, who's probably in the audience, he's enjoying his 51st year as a county ag agent. Lonnie reminded me this morning that he also met me on that interview trip in Minnesota, and in his memory it was during a snowstorm in summer in Minnesota. And I said, well, it could have been. It was Minnesota. I mean, after all, there's only 2 seasons in Minnesota, winter and the 4th of July. So I personally don't remember the snowstorm myself, but Lonnie was another one of those mentors during my early years. And so I would say even though a lot of these mentors have since retired, there's enough of you left, and campus specialists included, who were my mentors during those early years. And I'd say to any of you in the audience today that I've interacted with or have spent much time with over the years, I really do extend a sincere thank you for your friendship, for your mentorship, collegiality, and I think it's really helped me along all these years. When people ask me about my job at Purdue, I always hesitate, and I suspect I hesitate like a lot of you do when I try to answer, what do I do at Purdue? What's my job? And I think most of us look at what we do not as a job, but as a vocation. And that is certainly how I've looked at this career that I've had at Purdue. My goal in life is to improve agriculture. My goal in life is to help farmers, and that's what's driven me all these years and has made it very exciting and very rewarding. And, you know, in the last couple of years, a lot of our respective universities have been enjoying anniversaries. There's a number of our universities that are enjoying 150-year anniversaries this year, including Purdue and my home state University of Nebraska. And so I think each and every one of us in this room need to remember that we have this opportunity to live out these vocations that we do because of the vision displayed over the past century and a half by a lot of insightful congressional senators and representatives. And so we always need to remember Justin Smith Morrill, the senator from Vermont, who introduced the bill that ultimately was passed by Congress and signed by President Lincoln in 1862. During the midst of the American Civil War, this bill was signed that helped establish land-grant universities across this country. A truly novel and truly absolutely unique kind of concept at that point in time, and frankly remains a unique concept even today. We should also be thankful to Senator Hoke Smith of Georgia and Representative Asbury Lever of South Carolina of the Smith-Lever fame, who co-sponsored their bill to Congress that established the Cooperative Extension Service in 1914 and connected it to these newly established colleges of ag around the country. I've had the good fortune over the years to travel around the world, mostly in extension-related activities, and I've been able to preach the corny gospel, as it were, to farmers in mostly developed countries like Argentina and Italy, Australia, New Zealand, Hungary, South Africa, and Russia. One of the things I've learned on those trips is that our Cooperative Extension Service is truly the envy of the world. And I think maybe we take it for granted too much about what we do, and it's just simply, it is simply what we do. But it is truly the envy of the world, and most of the people I meet on these trips and other places in the world, they just can't understand how it works. They don't understand why it works. They don't understand how it's funded. They just don't understand. And most would love to emulate this system in their own countries because of how well we do extension education here in this country and its connection to the land-grant university. So I think we all need to be collectively proud of this global, truly global reputation that we have with this cooperative extension service here in this country. Effective extension educators, I think, are passionate. And when I listen again to farmers like Scott, I mean, clearly the passion is in you too for what we do in agriculture. But, you know, those of us that are in extension who are effective in what we do are also passionate about agriculture and passionate about helping folks like Scott. We want to help people improve their lot in life. And sometimes I think what we need to remember is that we're passionate because we believe in the word service in the Cooperative Extension Service name, because that's what we're about. We're here about, we're all about serving people. So I think in order to be effective in extension work, we clearly need to be knowledgeable in our respective areas of interest, and we need to be a good communicator, obviously. But I think just as importantly, if we're effective, it's because we treat people right, we treat people with respect, and we treat people with dignity. And that, I think, is the essence of service and what we do. One of my favorite quotes comes from Mark Twain, and I use it on my email signature. And he said, "Always do right. This will gratify some people, and it will astonish the rest." And so I think about that often, about always trying to do the right thing and always about treating people right. So in closing, I'll just simply say that I am humbled to stand here today in the presence of this group. I'm humbled because I realize that what I've been able to do in agriculture, while I'm getting an award for it, nevertheless, it's only a drop in the bucket compared to what this entire audience of extension educators has done with your collective wealth of experience and expertise and creativity. It's only a drop in the bucket with what you folks have achieved for agriculture in America and the world. So I thank all of you for your service to agriculture, and I sincerely thank NACAA for presenting me with this truly prestigious, outstanding service to American and World Agriculture Award. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nielsen, for those remarks and comments. Next part of the program is we want to hear some insights about what the upcoming year is going to be like with our President-elect, Gene McAvoy from Florida. Gene?
Thank you, Richard. Richard has asked me to look ahead a little bit and look at the new year. And as I look ahead at the new year, it's apparent that extension in the United States is at a crossroads. We face a time of great social and technological change. This is true of extension programming in general and is particularly true for agricultural-related programs. While no one can see the future, one thing is certain: the days ahead will not consist of business as usual. The needs for formal educational programs will be greater in the future than they have ever been in the past. If we as extension agents can adapt successfully, our future will be extremely bright. Some of the changes I see ahead: the demographics of our association and our clients are changing. It is readily apparent that we have many more women in extension. As a matter of fact, in a number of states, they represent the majority of agents. We're also seeing an increase in racial and ethnic diversity. To remain relevant, our association needs to successfully integrate and accommodate the needs of these members. Our clients are also becoming more diverse and more urban. Many are several generations removed from the farm and have limited knowledge of agriculture and natural systems. We must effectively address the educational needs of this new demographic. Methods of communication are evolving. People demand instant access to information. While there is still a fundamental need for unbiased science-based information, how do we communicate it in ways that will be effective and embraced by our clients? We need to become more proficient in using social media, things like Facebook and Twitter, to help deliver our message and educational programs. At the same time, traditional methods of one-on-one, face-to-face delivery must not be neglected. The needs of agricultural producers are changing. In many cases, the question is no longer what insect is this, what is the best fertilizer, or how do I control this disease, but how do I comply with this regulation? Things like the new worker protection standard, implementation of best management practices to protect water quality, or how to negotiate the H-2A farm labor program. Changing educational needs demand that we as agents seek out professional opportunities to educate ourselves to be able to meet clients' changing needs. Organizations such as NACAA can help play a role in providing us with these opportunities. We're increasingly being called on to do more with less. We're seeing more examples of regional agents serving multiple counties. In other cases, agents are being faced with revenue enhancement initiatives, directing that fees be charged to cover programming activities. Can we find creative and acceptable ways to do this? We're seeing a quantum leap in the use of technology, ranging from UAVs, robotics, GPS-guided equipment, smart sprayers, self-driving tractors, and cloud-based data collection. We must embrace this technology and use it to enhance our programming. Increased calls for accountability at the state, local, and national level demand that we do a better job documenting the impacts of our programs and communicating this effectively. Extension must not remain the nation's best-kept secret and will be called on to constantly validate itself. To do this, Extension needs a better job needs to do a better job of communicating who we are and what we have to offer. Most troubling is a growing fear and distrust of science in some sectors of our society. People fear what they don't understand, and as educators, we can help educate people and help them understand the new technologies. While I can go on at length about the changing social, technological, and political environment ahead of us, some basic fundamentals remain. Our success as an organization and as professionals remains dependent on our ability to address basic human values. Extension has traditionally excelled in this regard. We must not neglect our ability to form strong relationships with our clients and partners. We must continue to seek ways to integrate ourselves into and become part of local communities. It's been said that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. The truth is, extension is needed now more than ever before. The average citizen is being bombarded with more information than they can absorb. We know our clients, the climate, soil, what type of plants work best in a particular area, what kind of pest, disease, or weeds that may be encountered. 90% of the time, the problem or question a client has is something we've already encountered. The typical extension agent works with hundreds of people each week and thousands of questions each year, and he or she has knowledge of what can be done to help. We are actually living, breathing search engines. The actions or inactions of today will help determine Extension's future. Addressing the changes that face us will be part art, part science, and will be executed one person at a time. Effective engagement with our clients and partners must not be limited to a day, an event, but need to become a way of life. My goal as president will be to work with the board to continue to adapt to the changes around us and to keep NACAA relevant to the needs and desires of our members while preserving our rich traditions. I look forward to working with you all in the next year, the board, the committees, and my door is always open to new ideas, new thoughts that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gene. Finally, this morning, we will bring up Kelly one last time to give us any final announcements and her wonderful crew for door prizes. We're just having way too much fun back there behind the stage, so.
Good morning, everyone. Hey, you're awake. Great. I really don't have very many announcements because I'm going to save a lot of those for tonight at the banquet to give you reminders for tours and then save my other great stories for tonight. I have not said anything yet this morning that I shouldn't, so we're off to a good start. But it's still early. Okay, we are going to do door prizes one last time real quick. Hopefully real quick. And we're hoping everyone's here so we can well, that was efficient. He did draw 3. Elena Rogers, I bet, did she go on tour today? She's getting ready for her presentation, sorry. Sandra Sundermeyer. Amber Yutzi. We're off to a good start today. Wait, where's Elena giving her presentation out? Maybe we'll just deliver her a door prize. Give it to Lenny. Okay, give a bag of popcorn to Lenny to give to Elena. We'll speed this up just a little bit. You win by proxy. If you know someone and you want to take their door prize to them, we'll let you do that. Oh, no? So this morning, Henry Dora found me and said, I need to make some copies. So while Henry and I were in the room making copies, Henry said something about if I drew his name out, and guess whose name we drew out? So I'm going to give Henry a bag of popcorn, at least. His wife's here? Okay. That one, we need another one. It can't be her. I think it's Francisco Riviera. Okay. Yeah, give me 3 more. We got the big one, the final. And then we'll get to some educational sessions. Please join us for lunch. There are several box lunches and some plated lunches today. Even if you don't have a ticket, go check in the room and feel free to join. We have so many box lunches and other lunches going unclaimed. So please, and we've gotten lots of compliments on them this week that they are good. Tom Benton. Tina Coleman. Just draw the rest of them out for me, Kurt, and it'll go quicker. I mean, apparently no one wants to win the last big door prize. Christian Stevenson. Oh, no, they raised their hand. Yay! Thank you all very much. Have a great day, and we'll see you back in this room tonight for the banquet.
For this evening, the DSA people need to assemble over in Hall C.